fun football topic here on the Air Tours Pod YouTube channel on a Sunday. And yes, it involves a guy that we have talked about quite a bit here over the last couple months, the new head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, and his football program, which, oh, by the way, gets set to open spring practice on Monday. Same time, I know what a lot of people are saying, Torres, you talk too much Alabama. When will you stop talking Alabama football? Well, the bottom line is, I always say this, Colin Cowherd in my business, he says, I'm in the interesting business. And so my job hosting this show is to talk about the interesting topics that everybody cares about. And there is no doubt that Alabama, with a new head coach for the first time since 2007, is the biggest story of the offseason. Listen, it was funny. I was listening to even Kirby Smart with Josh Pate earlier this week. I think they recorded late last week. And even Kirby Smart said, when I got that text, I didn't believe it. So if Kirby Smart didn't know Nick Saban was retiring, nobody did. And I bring it up because it's been fascinating these last couple months getting to know and watch and evaluate everything. We knew about Kalen DeBoer. We knew his team played for a national championship, but on a grander scale, we didn't really know much about him. And then to take it a step further, we all obviously had some varying degree of questions once he got hired. What kind of staff is he going to put together? How is he going to recruit in the SEC? All of the things that everybody has been asking. Well, the staff is complete. I think he did an incredible job retaining his roster. And now we are starting to get to see what those recruiting chops look like. And we got confirmation once again that I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be just fine as the Alabama football coach when it comes to recruiting. That is because on Saturday, Antonio Coleman, a high four-star player out of Alabama, committed to Alabama under Nick Saban, decommitted when Nick Saban retired, committed to Auburn. Well, on Saturday, he flipped his commitment, and he is headed to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide, or at least right now, that is the plan. And to me, this might be a little story to a lot of people, but what it says to me is don't doubt Kalen DeBoer. My guy is going to be just fine, and the recruiting is going to figure itself out. Not saying he's going to sign the number one class every year, but if you think he's not going to be able to do it on this level, you're out of your mind. Now, first of all, obviously, it's not fair to say that this is the first big recruiting win of the Kalen DeBoer era. No. First off, I would argue that keeping most of that roster together in that post-Nick Saban craziness of mid-January, I think that was the first big win because we've talked about it a lot on this channel. But the bottom line is all of those kids had options. All of those kids were getting hit up privately through back channels, and all of them had the opportunity to go somewhere else. And really, I would argue outside of Caleb Downs, Kalen DeBoer basically kept everybody that he wanted and that Alabama fans want. Now, yes, would you have liked to keep Isaiah Bond? Yes, but it sounded like he was transferring anyway. He was out the door basically before Saban was. Caden Proctor, we all heard the stories that he was unhappy and was probably going to transfer even if Nick Saban stayed. Julian Sayin, he only decided to leave after Kalen DeBoer brought in one of his own guys. So the fact that you essentially kept 90% of the roster that was going to be there anyway, I think that is an incredible testament in and of itself to Kalen DeBoer. All those kids came to play for Nick Saban. All those kids had options, and Kalen DeBoer kept most of them. And I also think it's worth noting, by the way, he closed the 2024 class in style by adding Ryan Williams, who ironically is a high school teammate of Antonio Coleman. So it's not to say that Antonio Coleman's the first big commitment that he's had, and what does it mean, and this proves everything. No. But I do think this is different for a few reasons. One, it's worth noting, even with all those guys on that roster, in that facility already, it is worth noting that they were in that facility. The semester had started, campus, they're on campus. So it's not to say that it isn't an incredible testament that DeBoer kept that roster together, but a lot of them probably just sat back and said, you know what? I came to Alabama. The older player said, I want to finish here. And even the younger player said, let's give this thing till the end of the spring to figure out if this is really for me. Ryan Williams, not the same, but it's sort of the same. He's not on campus yet, but he had been committed to Alabama. He had to sign in February. He has to get ready to enroll in the springtime. And so we were still waiting for that first big, flag planting statement moment in the recruiting trail for the players that were not, basically part of the roster or part of the 2024 class. And I think we got it on Saturday. First of all, Antonio Coleman, listen, I'm not a recruiting grinder. I'm not an X's and O's recruiting expert. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, in the state semifinals, he had this play that proved to me that he's a first-round type talent. No, but I do trust the guys and girls who do this on an everyday basis. And by all accounts, this kid is a stud. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the roster, the offer list. Had an offer from Auburn, obviously. Had an offer from Clemson. Had an offer from Florida State, among many others. So this kid could basically have played anywhere. And I think the fact that he recommitted in this moment is important. Now, you could sit there and say, well, who knows? He could always decommit between now and the signing day. Of course he can. Everybody can. But at the same time, it feels to me like this was a kid that wanted to be a member of Alabama when the chaos of the Nick Saban retirement, which shocked everybody from me to you to Kirby Smart, to certainly a high school junior who thought he had his whole career figured out, and now all of a sudden there's questions. I think what he did was he smartly took a step back. Now, should he have committed to Auburn? That's another question. I'm not here to criticize a 17-year-old kid, but it sounds like he always wanted to be at Alabama, and now he's reassessed. He's gotten to know the new staff a little bit better, and he has decided that Alabama is his future. Worth noting, by the way, he told Hayes Fawcett, you know what he told Hayes Fawcett? He said that a big part of the reason that he wanted to stay was because of Freddie Roach, the D-line coach. And to me, that is important as well. Might not feel important, might not look important. Let me explain why it is. This was a guy that was on the previous coaching staff that Kalen DeBoer smartly retained. And I think that's part of being great at anything. Being a great coach, being a great leader, being a great boss, being a great manager, running a Fortune 500 company, running a football team, running a basketball team, is bringing in smart people who kind of accentuate your, kind of fill in the gaps with your talents as well. And what Kalen DeBoer knew was, you know what? I'm from the northwest part of the country. I've spent most of my life on the West Coast, from Fresno to Sioux Falls to Washington. I don't know this area as well as I need to, so let's make sure we keep a couple guys in-house that do, and who better than a coach who coached one of the best defensive lines in college football last year, played at Alabama, knows the area, knows the SEC, and it's paying dividends. And so I'm not going to oversell it. I'm not going to pretend that this is the biggest recruit that Alabama has ever signed or ever will sign. Probably not even going to be the highest ranked recruit in this class. But what it says to me, Kalen DeBoer is a smart man, a great coach, and he's going to figure it out. Is it going to result in a national championship this coming season? Probably not. Only one team can win a national championship. It's a tough schedule. The SEC is a gauntlet. Obviously, the playoff every day is like something new that nobody can quite figure out. Is it 12 teams? Is it 14 teams? Whatever. Those are other conversations for other day. But is this further proof, in my opinion, that Kalen DeBoer is the right man for Alabama and that he's going to figure it out, that he's going to bring in great players, that he already has a roster full of great players, and that he is going to continue everything Nick Saban did? There'll never be another Nick Saban, but I've said it since the day he was hired. I think this is about as well as they could have done, and we got further proof yet again on Saturday. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows.